Welcome back, Defenders. Today, let's start with some bad news for Russia. Russia lost another plane. Su-34 crashes during a training flight in central Russia. Ukraine didn't do this. This was either a piloting error or mechanical malfunction. Either way, a Su-34 jet went down. Both of the pilots were able to eject. And I guess Ukraine doesn't count these whenever Russia crashes or shoots down their own planes. They've done it quite a bit in the last 3.5 years. But still, 420 planes. That's a lot of planes to lose, Russia. You're losing a lot of planes. So let's now get to some bad news. North Korea to reinforce Moscow with 30,000 troops. Pyongyang is reportedly going to triple its troop deployments against Ukraine by sending another 25,000 to 35,000 troops to reinforce the 11,000 troops they sent last year. This is insane. This is not a higher news story, but the North Korean military is invading Europe. These are not North Korean soldiers helping Russia defend Kursk. They're going to the occupied territories. They are going to be used to assault Ukrainian positions in Zaporizhia, in Donetsk. This is the North Korean military conducting offensive operations against a European country. But still, it's really not that many soldiers. 30,000 troops is less than 1 month's worth of casualties for the Russian military. So by extending these soldiers, Pyongyang is delaying the inevitable by another month. Not great, but North Korea could be sending hundreds of thousands. We might get there in the future, which is why it's so important to deter North Korea today. European countries, democracies, the G7, we have to find a way to punish North Korea to stop them from doing this. And why is North Korea doing it? What is the ideological cause that North Korean soldiers are fighting for? And there is none. Kim Jung Un just likes the attention and he likes money. How this works is that whenever North Korea donates one of their slave soldiers, Kim Jung Un gets to keep the paycheck. This has been reported that these North Korean soldiers are being paid by the Kremlin the fair rate for a contract soldier in Russia. It's about $2,000 a month. So by sending 30,000 slaves to Russia to fight, each being paid $2,000 a month, that's $60 million. That's a lot of cheese for the dear leader. And these North Korean soldiers don't get paid. They don't receive any of this money. Their families back in North Korea don't receive any of this money. Russian soldiers have been complaining frequently that they hate the North Koreans because they're all thieves. In the night, North Koreans will go to Russian dugouts and steal their equipment, steal their food, steal their electronics. Because they don't have any money. They have to steal to survive once they reach Russia. In addition, Russia is giving the North Koreans lots of technology. Russia transfers Panzer systems and drone tech to North Korea. This is according to Ukrainian but also South Korean intelligence. The Russians are giving the North Koreans ballistic missile technology, cruise missile technology, satellites in space, submarines. Russia is desperate, and they will do anything for help from anyone. This was weird. I'll link this video down below, but Kim Jung Un is now holding public memorials for the North Korean soldiers who have died fighting for the Russians. This is weird because initially North Korean state media didn't tell their people that they had sent soldiers to Russia, but it's been 6 months and the international blowback has been minimal, so Kim Jong Un enjoys this now. He's now talking about the brave sacrifice of North Korean soldiers fighting the Nazis in Ukraine for some reason. Like, ideologically, this doesn't make sense for anyone in North Korea to care about what happens in Ukraine, but Kim Jong Un likes money. I read this headline: over 210,000 Russians signed contracts for war in Ukraine in the first half of 2025. This is according to Dmitry Medvedev. I was scrolling through my RSS feed and then I saw this article next. This is hilarious. Ukraine wipes out 230,000 Russian soldiers in the first half of 2025 alone. So the Russians are saying we've signed contracts for 210,000 soldiers, and Ukraine says they've wiped out 230,000 in the first half of this year. This is the definition of running in place for the Russians. Russian drones destroy hospital and mail depot in overnight terror assault on Ukraine. Every night, there are still missiles and drones hitting Ukrainian cities. At the moment, Russia's trying to blow up every single post office in Ukraine with million-dollar missiles. And here is a bar chart showing how dramatic the last couple months have been. If we go back to June of 2024, this was 12 months ago, Russia only launched 336 Shahed drones. That's on average about 10 a night. This steadily increased through November, steadily increased again through March, and now in June, Russia launched 5,438 drones against Ukrainian cities. This number in June of this year, 5,438. This is the production breakthrough that potentially Russia has had. So Ukraine has to adapt. They have to find these drone launching crews and eliminate them before the drones can get off the ground, or they've got to find these factories and destroy them. Ukraine can't do this for the rest of the year, trying to shoot down 5,000 drones in addition to cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. Here's another visual to see what happened in the month of June. This is June 1st through June 30th. And it's not a consistent amount every night. The baseline seems to be between 50 and 100 Shahed drones launched, and then about once a week, Russia tries to surprise Ukraine with a massive amount, 400 or 500. You can see in the month of June there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we'll count this one, 8 massive attacks of hundreds of drones and missiles. Russia cannot launch 500 drones every single day. This is according to Budanov. So I know in the media, I've said it as well, Russia wants to launch 500 drones a night to destroy Ukrainian cities. But Russia's still not quite doing that. Their average is about 300 or 200 a day. So what Russia does is every night they'll launch 50 or 100. They're saving up their production for then one massive attack at least a week. This is not great. We need solutions. We need to come up with a way to counter this. And here is a striking visual. This is a British Raven air defense system being used in Ukraine. So this guy's job every night is to find and shoot down Russian drones. And usually for these crews, every time they shoot down a drone, they'll put, like pilots do, they'll put a marker on their vehicle. But the vehicle is filling up. It's running out of space for all the drones this air defense crew is shot down. So here's the bad news. According to Politico, U.S. cuts critical air defense shipments to Ukraine needed to protect civilians from Russian terror. The decision followed an internal review showing American arsenals had dropped to concerning levels and was justified as putting America's interests first. The Pentagon has halted shipments of some air defense missiles and other precision munitions to Ukraine due to worries that U.S. weapon stockpiles have fallen too low. The decision was driven by the Pentagon's policy chief, Elbridge Colby, and was made after a review of Pentagon munition stockpiles, leading to concerns that the total number of artillery rounds and air defense missiles and precision munitions was sinking. We have a new person to hate. His name is Elbridge Colby, and he is the Pentagon's policy chief, and he is the one that made this decision. And it doesn't make any sense. And I can explain to you the numbers. These are the specific numbers that were supposed to be delivered this week or whatever. And this one guy said, we're not doing that. We're not going to deliver what was legally allocated by Congress last year and promise for delivery by President Biden. You can't just change the mandate from Congress, that is federal law, but we're no longer following federal law here in the United States. So what he decided to block was 92 AIM missiles, 30 Patriot missiles, 8,496 artillery shells, 142 Hellfire missiles, 252 Gimler's missiles, 25 Stinger missiles, and 125 grenade launchers. If the United States needs this amount of equipment because our stockpiles are so low, then something terrible has happened. But this doesn't make any sense. The annual production for Gimler's rounds is 14,000. To send Ukraine 252, this is about 1% of our annual production. The Pentagon is trying to argue that our defense stockpiles are so low. When we produce 14,000 of these Gimler rounds a year, we can't spare 252. Same is true for artillery rounds. The United States currently is producing 500,000 artillery rounds a year, and they're saying we can't give up, I don't even know what that is, it's about 1%, 8,500 artillery rounds. But Gimler's rounds are launched from a range of about 90 kilometers, and for artillery rounds, this is about 20 kilometers. Who in the United States military, recently or in the near future, is going to be firing at an enemy at a range of 20 kilometers? Like, if you want to say we used up a bunch of Patriot missiles in the Middle East and we need to save our Patriot missiles, that makes sense. But the Pentagon is blocking defense materials that the United States military hasn't been using, and if we were to use, then things have gone horribly wrong. We're in a war with China, or we launched a ground invasion of Iran. So make this make sense to me, because this doesn't make sense to me. More than likely, this one guy, Colby, just made the decision because he doesn't like Ukraine, and he didn't run it by anybody else. I think it's all made by the DoD policy director, this Colby guy. We essentially don't have a national security advisor. This is according to Republican Representative Michael McCall. I'm not even sure the Secretary of State Marco Rubio was consulted on this one. There's internal division in the White House. So yes, Trump fired the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and then never replaced him. He then put Marco Rubio temporarily in charge of the job, but that was months ago. And I think this policy director of the DoD just did it. He didn't run it by Rubio. He didn't run it by Trump. He just wanted to do it, and he went ahead and did it. That's not good. People in Congress are rightfully frustrated and outraged. Republican members of Congress who do support Ukraine. This is Republican Representative Brian Fitzpatrick saying, "Today I called on the president to address my serious concern regarding reports that the United States is withholding critical defense material pledged to Ukraine. This comes as Russia launches the largest aerial assault since the war began, firing over 500 weapons at civilian targets in a single week." Ukraine says it wasn't notified of U.S. weapons shipment halt. Officials insist deliveries are continuing. This is nonsense. There's just chaos and confusion everywhere in my government. Nobody in my government really knows what's going on because every day and every week, Donald Trump puts out conflicting information. He makes stuff up. He puts stupid and irresponsible people in charge of important departments. But yes, I think this Colby guy at the DoD halted all these weapons and didn't even bother to tell Ukraine because he doesn't care about Ukraine. Weapon delays help Russia reject peace and escalate terror. This is what Ukraine is telling Washington, D.C. So I'm waiting for President Zelensky to give his reaction. He's a diplomat. He doesn't want to burn any bridges. It's okay for you and me to say whatever we want and to be as angry as we possibly can be. But it's his job to once again be a diplomat. This is what Zelensky says about this situation. Today, Ukraine's ministers of defense and foreign affairs gave reports, in particular on relations with the United States. At the working level, Ukraine and the United States are clarifying all the details of defense support, including air defense. One way or another, we must ensure protection for our people. This was only a week and a half ago. This was like a genuine human moment, and I know people in the comments were starting to have a little bit of sympathy for Trump if he was capable of empathy for dying people. This BBC reporter mentioned her husband is a soldier. She was asking, what about additional air defense systems and missiles? And Trump showed sympathy and said, we're going to try. We're going to try and get you additional air defense systems and air defense missiles. And a week and a half later, he cuts off all military support for Ukraine. He's the president. He has the final say. If he wanted to reverse this today, he could call this Colby guy at the Pentagon and say, change the policy. This isn't what I want. But at the moment, Trump is not doing that. Just another signal to every single U.S. partner and customer nation that no matter what they do, even if they follow every single demand from Washington, the United States can completely cut them off at any time. Actions like this will have long-term geopolitical consequences. For my non-American viewers, you know the truth. The United States is worthless. You cannot trust the United States on anything. You cannot partner with the United States on anything, because Donald Trump will never keep his word. The second he thinks it benefits him better, he will break his word and betray you every single time. Here are thoughts from Ilya Ponomarenko. One day, Trump loudly rants about Putin destroying civilian homes with missile strikes in Ukraine, demands that the killing stop, wags his finger. The next day, Trump arbitrarily blocks long-approved and fully funded U.S. Congress deliveries of air defense systems that shoot down those very Russian missiles that bury Ukrainians under the rubble of their own homes. This is the world we live in, where the life and death of people depend on a man with the vocabulary of a third grader who barely realizes what he does and says at any given moment, and who now also sells cheap cologne in a bottle shaped like a golden statue of himself. I'm never going to accept this as normal. The President of the United States is using the White House. He's using the office of the presidency to enrich himself. Every decision that Donald Trump makes is only to gain more wealth or gain more power. It's the only thing he cares about. He doesn't care if people die. He doesn't care if people in Ukraine die. He doesn't even really care if Americans die. This one big beautiful bill that just passed in Congress, kicking tens of millions of Americans off their health insurance, off of Medicaid, people are going to die. But they're poor, and they're powerless. And Trump has no sympathy for poor or powerless people, because he only cares about wealth and power for himself. I'm going to continue opposing this monster with every ounce of my being for the rest of his life. And I'm doing my best, guys. I'm doing my best as an American to pay attention to the news every day when things here in the United States just get worse and worse and worse. And they're going to continue getting worse the next 3 years. We're not going to be improving anything, economically, socially, for a while. Kremlin cheers U.S. arms delay to Ukraine, says empty warehouses bring peace closer. This is Russia's strategy for winning. Get everyone to stop supporting Ukraine, have Ukraine run out of weapons, and then just kill everyone you want to kill. Take the territory. This is not about people. It's a land grab. And yes, the Kremlin is thanking Donald Trump and celebrating his administration. Putin and Trump speak for sixth phone conversation this year. So 6 phone calls in 6 months is a lot. That's about 1 phone call a month. And there's no conspiracies here, guys. There's nothing interesting these two are talking about. They'll just fill the time talking about exhibition hockey matches and exploring new Arctic trading routes together, but I think Donald Trump is so stupid, and Putin knows exactly how stupid he is, they just fill the time with pleasantries and nonsense talk, and Trump ultimately is doing what Putin wanted him to do. The Russians spent hundreds of millions of dollars on bot farms and social media accounts to get Trump elected so that the United States would fall into chaos, fall into anarchy, so that we would turn on each other and weaken us to the point where authoritarians around the world can do whatever they want. US leadership is gone. So we need Europe. We need the G7. You guys have to carry the torch of liberal democracy and human rights for the next 3.5 years. NATO chief says Ukraine cannot do without US aid as Pentagon suspends deliveries. I appreciate any effort made by European leaders to reach Donald Trump. Never stop. It's a good strategy. Never stop flattering him, never stop ingratiating him, try and get him to change his mind or come around. But at the end of the day, it's all extra. It's all bonus. Europe and Ukraine, you're going to have to win this war on your own. If the United States helps at all, fantastic. The people of the United States, like me, tens of millions of Americans, we're going to continue doing what we can, but our government is worthless. US drops sanctions on Russian oligarch and chess champion. So yes, Donald Trump just lifted sanctions on a bunch of Russian businessmen and companies, and the White House is saying they haven't lifted any sanctions on Russia because these sanctions placed on Russians was because of Syria. The United States is normalizing diplomatic relations with Syria to include lifting all sanctions that were placed on companies in response to the Syrian civil war. So these sanctions that Trump are lifting, they were there before February of 2022, and they related to Syria. But obviously this still benefits Russia. Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care. So let's get to the bad news for Russia, because there's plenty today. More details are emerging of the June 30th missile strike on the 8th Army command posts. And it looks like the senior leader for the Russian 8th Army was eliminated, along with a lot of members of his command staff. 8 in total were killed, 9 wounded, 4 still missing. And this is a big deal. Ukraine kills Russian Navy general in Kursk. This is Putin's 11th general lost in the war. This is Major General Mikhail Gudkov, Russia's deputy Navy chief. He was inspecting positions in Kursk. Ukraine got the intelligence where he was, and I think this might have been a Gimler strike on the command post. But Russia has confirmed his death, and we get to go to my favorite Wikipedia page, list of Russian generals killed during the Russian invasion of Ukraine. When we scroll down, he has been updated on the Wikipedia page. Major General killed on a strike in Kursk, confirmed July 2nd. But this is news. I've not seen a headline for these two guys. FSB General killed by a car bomb in Moscow, as well as this Vice Admiral, circumstances unknown, death reported by Ukrainian and Russian sources. So these are the moments. The status is claimed, but it could be confirmed in the next day or two. Potentially, Russia lost 3 generals in a single week. That's pretty bad. Explosion rocks central Luhansk as top collaborator Manolis Pilavov was killed. A powerful blast targeted a high-profile official. This is a Russian collaborator, and Ukraine got the intelligence where and when he would be in Luhansk, and this was an IED. This was a planted explosive that got him. Videos show Russian ammo stockpiles spectacularly destroyed in occupied Donetsk. This is an ammunition depot, and let me show you the pictures of the explosion. There is a video if you want to see a Russian ammo depot go boom. I'll link it down below. Russia's Kupol military plant reportedly halts operation after Ukrainian drone strike. I showed the video of the drone strike in my last update video, but now we have the satellite image, and this is the damage that was done. This facility was struck with at least 2 long-range Ukrainian drones. Here are some pictures on the ground, and this was some kind of factory producing goods for the Russian military, but it's going to be out of commission for a couple months probably. We also got the satellite images confirming that indeed 3 Russian helicopters in Crimea were destroyed by Ukraine. This was claimed, and honestly, anytime Ukrainian intelligence claims something, I'm just going to assume it's true, because every time we do get either Russian military bloggers confirming it, or we get the satellite images proving it. It's very important. Important facility hits. Ukraine attacks Russian oil refinery in Saratov. If the United States has cut off all military aid to Ukraine, then they've also lost all leverage. I do think Ukraine needs to go back to hitting oil depots and refineries. They had a lot of success the first 3 months of the year. Then because of the peace talks, they were trying not to upset or offend Donald Trump, but just do it. And this might be a turning point, a new strategy. This is an idea I've had in my head the last 2 years, and I didn't understand why Ukraine wasn't doing it. But Ukraine may have bombed 5 Russian Shadow Fleet tankers with limpet mines, all 5 ships called at Russian ports week before the blast. So my theory is that Ukraine should be going after these Shadow Fleet tankers when they're returning to Russia empty. You obviously don't want to hit them when they're leaving Russia, full of oil or LNG. That would be an environmental disaster. But when they're returning empty, take them out. There's like 900 of them. The problem with doing this is that if it's open season on Russia's Shadow Fleet tankers, then the Russian Navy is going to start sinking any grain or commercial ships that try to go to Ukrainian ports to get grain out. I thought that was the reason why Ukraine wasn't doing this, but maybe we've reached a point in the war where Ukraine is going to accept they're not going to get their exports out through the Black Sea anymore, and in return, it's open season on all these Shadow Fleet tankers. Foreign automotive makers scale back new model launches in Russia. Russia's economy is going into recession. The money is drying up, and fewer Russian families can afford new cars, so foreign automotive makers are no longer shipping new vehicles to Russia. The demand is not there. Russian manufacturing activity sees sharpest decline since early months of Ukraine invasion. This was the headline on June 1st. I remember this story. So last month was the sharpest decline until this month, creating a new sharpest decline. I have a feeling on August 1st I'm going to have the exact same headline to read for you guys. Your manufacturing activity is weak, Russia. It's weak. This is a quick video I want to share with you, a follow-up on those oil spills in the Black Sea from 7 months ago. And vacationers are on the beaches of the Black Sea trying to enjoy their summer holidays. And this is what mothers are noticing on their infants trying to play in the water or on the beach.
Обстановка с пляжа Новороссийска. Вот, пожалуйста, ребенок весь у меня в мазуте уделанный. Так же, как и я в целом. Ну-ка, Тиму убери. Чудо, Юда. Уже не первый раз.
That is toxic sludge being absorbed into the skin of Russian infants. I mean, if you're an adult and you want to risk it, go in the water, but do not let your children go on the beaches or in the water of the Black Sea until there's a proper cleanup, which Russia never did. From plane crash to deadly arrests, what's behind the Russia-Azerbaijan standoff? And this continues to escalate. Azerbaijan launches murder probe after autopsy finds brothers died from beatings in Russian police custody. Relations between Azerbaijan and Russia have not been good since Russia shot down one of their passenger planes. I think that was November or December. And there have been Azerbaijani citizens in Moscow who have been detained, brutally beaten. These brothers died in police custody. So Azerbaijan arrested some RT, or they said they were journalists, but they were FSB spies. Russia was not happy about having their spies arrested, so in Moscow they started smashing the windows and arresting, Azerbaijani community leaders inside Russia. Azerbaijan didn't like that, so they started arresting Russians in Azerbaijan, accusing them of drug dealing and cyber terrorism, and it's just going back and forth. I don't want any innocent Azerbaijani people affected, due to Russian brutality, but chaos for Russia is good for us. So if these two countries want to fight and have worsened diplomatic relations, this is good for Ukraine. Speaking of good for Ukraine, Latvia to send 42 armored vehicles. These are Patria 6x6s, and they can carry 10 troops at a time. Thank you so much to the fantastic people of Latvia. I guess this is good news, I'm not sure, but the eastern flank of NATO has withdrawn from the Ottawa Convention. This is the international treaty saying that countries won't use landmines, but Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland have withdrawn from the treaty so they can mine their border with Russia, because Russia does have plans to attack them at some point in the future. Final video I want to share with you is from President Zelensky. He traveled to Denmark and took the time to present a special award, the Future of Ukraine distinction, to an 11-year-old Danish boy. His name is Jens Thomsen. Since last year, Jens has been handcrafting Easter decorations and, through their sale, raised 3,400 Danish kroner to purchase school backpacks and supplies for Ukrainian children affected by the war. This is President Zelensky thanking him and presenting him an award.
Hi, Jens. That is a surprise. Yeah? I'm happy to see you. Happy to meet you. Hi.
Hi, Colin.
Good to see you.
Oh, pretty good. You too.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. And I'm very thankful from all our people. First of all, from all our children. And you know it. And, they are under attacks, under Russian attacks. But they are trying to survive, and they survive because they love Ukraine, because they have friends. And you're a big friend of Ukraine. Thanks for these backpacks, yes, yeah. In English backpacks that you did, that you collect money and helped our Ukrainian children. From all our children, we're honored that we have such friends from Denmark. My congratulations, yes. That is for you.
So for that look. Sweet smile.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.